Have you ever set a really exciting, ambitious goal, like you feel absolutely incredibly motivated for maybe 3 days, and then slowly, almost without even realizing it, you just slide right back into your exact old routine?
Oh, yeah, constantly.
Right, like you wake up one morning, you look in the mirror, and you just think, oh, what happened? I mean, I wanted this so badly.
Such a common trap.
It really is. And if that sounds painfully familiar to you listening right now, I want to assure you right off the bat, you do not have a motivation problem. You have, well, an implementation gap.
Yeah, exactly. We tend to mistake that initial emotional high of setting a goal for the actual kinetic energy required to, execute it.
Right.
But setting a massive undefined goal is a lot like trying to run this heavy, complex software program on your computer, but you haven't actually written the underlying code.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You're just clicking open on this beautiful ambition, but without the specific lines of code like those daily structured actions telling the processor exactly what to execute, the system just crashes. Your brain gets completely overwhelmed and you just default right back to your old operating system.
I love that analogy. The software crashes because the code just isn't there.
Exactly.
So in our last deep dive, number 17, we talked all about how to actually choose that one meaningful growth goal.
Right, narrowing it down.
Yeah. And today we are taking the necessary next step. We are writing the code. We're turning that abstract goal into a highly practical plan.
Which is so crucial.
It is. Today we're doing a deep dive into the architecture of that implementation gap. We're using insights from a program called Victory with Ash, specifically pulling from their master knowledge base.
And, the core mission of this material today is profound, but pretty simple, honestly. It's about moving you from the theoretical desire for change into the tangible, gritty reality of making it happen day by day.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to solve the problem of failed goals, we first have to look at this, what they call the goal to action problem.
Right.
People say things like, I want to grow my business, or I want to learn AI, or I want to be a healthier person.
Sure.
And those sound great. They look fantastic on a vision board.
Yeah.
But the source material says they are fatally flawed right from the start. Why do these beautiful ambitions just fail us?
It really comes down to the mechanics of cognitive load.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, when a goal is that vast and undefined, your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for executive functioning, decision-making, it simply doesn't know what to do with it on a random Tuesday morning at 8 a.m.
Right, because it's too big.
Exactly. A goal like grow my business fractures your cognitive bandwidth. It requires just way too many micro decisions all at once.
Which leads to overthinking.
Overthinking, information overload, and ultimately complete paralysis. You have the motivation, but because you lack a specific sequence of actions, your brain just chooses the path of least resistance,
Which is doing nothing at all.
doing absolutely nothing.
It makes me think of getting into a taxi. Imagine sliding into the back seat of a cab in a super busy city,
Okay.
and the driver looks in the rearview mirror and asks where you want to go, and you just confidently say, take me somewhere nice.
You're not going anywhere.
No. I mean, you might drive around aimlessly, the meter is running, you're spending a bunch of money, and you're probably feeling incredibly anxious.
Right.
Because without a specific address and a defined route, the intention to go somewhere nice is just completely useless. You're just burning gas.
That is a brilliant way to look at it. The intention is definitely there, but the coordinates are totally missing. To counter that aimless driving, Ash Mufareh, who's the founder of the Victory with Ash program, introduces this foundational philosophy to get your coordinates straight. And it's built on three main pillars: rise, reset, and refocus.
Rise, reset, refocus. Okay, let's break those down.
So rise is the initial non-negotiable decision. It's choosing action over excuses and basically taking absolute responsibility for your current situation.
Right, so it's about taking ownership.
Exactly. And then reset is about clearing the slate, aggressively removing old destructive habits and, limiting beliefs. You can't really build a new skyscraper on a crumbling foundation.
That makes sense, but nature abhors a vacuum, right? Like once you have that clean slate, once you've reset, you have to fill that space with something intentional before the world just fills it with junk again. Is that where the third pillar comes in, the refocus?
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, refocusing is honestly perhaps the most urgent survival skill we can develop today.
Because of all the distractions.
Oh, absolutely. Modern life is an absolute minefield. It is scientifically engineered to distract us. Refocusing means deliberately directing your energy away from those endless algorithmic distractions and strictly toward what actually matters.
Because where attention goes, results follow.
That is the core principle here. Information alone rarely creates transformation. Transformation only happens when all that learning actually becomes physical, daily action.
So reset clears out the old bad habits, and refocus points us in the right direction. We are sitting in the taxi, the engine is running, we are ready to go.
We have the address.
Right. So how do we actually plot that specific route? The sources talk about a transformation pipeline moving from a vision to a goal to a plan to action, review, improvement, and finally, the result.
Right, the whole sequence.
But rather than just reading down a rigid list of steps, let's talk about the mechanics of how this plan is actually built. If someone listening wants to start this today, what does this framework demand of them?
Well, the framework essentially demands you do three core things to build that actionable bridge. First, you need ultimate clarity.
Okay, clear.
This means getting hyper-specific and anchoring your goal to a deep personal why. You have to take a vague idea like improve communication and sharpen it into a testable reality.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like, I want to speak confidently in professional meetings without looking at my notes.
I want to stop you right there for a second because I feel like we have all heard the phrase define your why a million times.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
It's practically a self-help cliche at this point. You see it on coffee mugs.
Huh.
So what does this source material actually add to that conversation? Why is this step not just a fluffy motivational poster?
That's a really fair point to raise. It has become a cliche. But what the source text points out is the fundamental difference between intrinsic identity shifts and extrinsic rewards.
Okay, unpack that. Extrinsic rewards would be...
Like when people define their why by saying, I want a promotion so I can make more money, that why is incredibly fragile.
Because money isn't enough.
Right. Because the moment the work gets harder than the desire for the money, you just quit. This material asks you to find a why that challenges your current identity. It has to be the anchor that sustains you when you inevitably hit a wall.
Wow, okay.
It's the specific emotional reason that makes quitting more painful than pushing forward. And that anchor leads directly to the second core requirement, identifying your capability gap.
Wait, so when you say capability gap, does that mean I'm not actually practicing the overarching goal itself? Like if my goal is to become a better leader, I'm not just going into the office and doing leadership.
Right. It feels like we're dissecting the goal into micro skills.
Exactly.
Because you can't just do leadership. Leadership is a result, not an action. You have to isolate the specific underlying skill you currently lack.
Oh, I see.
Maybe your blind spot is delegation. Or maybe it's conflict management. So you are practicing leadership as this vague concept. You are practicing how to give constructive feedback without getting defensive. You isolate the specific capability required to unlock the larger goal.
That is a massive perspective shift. Okay, so we have ultimate clarity and we've found our blind spot, our capability gap. What is the third requirement?
The third is what we might call the physics of progress. This is where you break that isolated capability down into really small, non-intimidating actions. You create a system to measure them and then constantly review and adjust.
So it's a loop.
Yes. Plan, act, review, learn, adjust, act again.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and I kind of have to push back a little on this third part.
Oh, go for it.
Creating a measurement system for everything, tracking every little metric. I mean, we all know people who are obsessed with their fitness trackers or productivity apps, and honestly, they seem kind of miserable.
That can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Doesn't tracking every single habit and action kind of kill the joy of the goal itself? It feels very rigid, like you're building a prison for yourself.
It's a great observation, and it's a trap the source text actually anticipates and warns against.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The text explicitly tells you not to measure activity just for the sake of activity. If you measure everything, you basically measure nothing. You just create anxiety. The operative word here is meaningful progress.
Okay, so we aren't just ticking boxes to feel busy and get a quick dopamine hit.
Exactly. If your goal is to become a better public speaker, you do not measure how many hours you spent reading books about public speaking.
Yeah.
That is a vanity metric.
Right, because you haven't actually spoken.
Exactly. You measure how many 2-minute presentations you actually delivered out loud. A plan is supposed to be a guide, not a prison. If your measurement system is causing you stress rather than giving you clarity, you are simply measuring the wrong things.
That makes complete sense. Measurement is just there to create awareness.
Exactly. Awareness, not exhaustion.
Okay, so we have the mechanics. We know we need clarity, we need to isolate the capability, and we need to measure meaningful progress. But what does this actually look like in the wild? Because doing this alone in a vacuum is notoriously difficult.
It really is. And what's fascinating here is that the text gives this brilliant, highly relatable illustration of this exact dynamic. It tells the story of two students, person A and person B,
Okay.
and they both have the exact same goal.
Hmm.
They want to overcome their paralyzing fear of public speaking.
I think a lot of us can relate to person A in this story.
Definitely. So person A takes the route most of us default to. They consume. They listen to podcasts about speaking. They watch hundreds of YouTube videos on body language. They read articles for 3 entire months.
Wow, 3 months of just research.
Right. They acquire a massive amount of theoretical knowledge, but they never actually open their mouth to practice. So at the end of the 3 months, they know all the theory, but their heart still races, their palms still sweat, and they are still completely terrified to speak in public.
They got trapped in the illusion of progress. Because consuming feels like doing.
It really does. But now, look at person B. Person B creates a simple, highly structured 4-week plan.
Okay, what does that look like?
Week 1, they don't read anything. They just speak out loud to themselves in an empty room for 2 minutes daily.
2 minutes, that's nothing.
Exactly. Week 2, they record it on their phone and watch it back. Week 3, they practice explaining one single idea without looking at any notes. Week 4, they deliver a 5-minute presentation to a small group of trusted friends.
Wow, the difference in the outcome is just staggering. Person B probably has way less theoretical knowledge about, the aerodynamics of speech than person A, but because they took small, structured actions, they built physical experience.
Yes, and experience is what actually builds confidence. You can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking.
Act your way into a new way of thinking. That's so good.
And that story highlights exactly why solo learning, just consuming content in a vacuum, so often fails. It lacks friction.
So what's the alternative?
To succeed, the Victory with Ash program emphasizes 3 massive community pillars to surround your plan: environment, mentorship, and accountability.
Let's dig into the why behind those pillars, because they really are game changers. Why does environment dictate our behavior so heavily?
It comes down to human psychology and neuroscience, honestly. Think about mirroring neurons in your brain.
Oh, right.
We are quite literally wired to subconsciously mimic the behaviors, the standards, and the emotional states of the people around us. There's also something called social baseline theory, which suggests that our brains actually perceive difficult tasks as physically less demanding when we are in a supportive group.
That is wild. So when you are surrounded by an environment of people pushing themselves for growth, your brain just recalibrates to that new normal.
Exactly. Your standards naturally elevate.
So environment sets the baseline, and then mentorship shortens the learning curve. You aren't stumbling around in the dark making the same expensive mistakes someone else made 5 years ago. You have a guide.
Right. And accountability is that final piece that turns your good intentions into consistent action. Because, let's be honest, it is incredibly easy to let yourself down.
Oh yeah. We negotiate with ourselves all the time.
All the time. But it is much, much harder to let down a mentor or a peer group who is actively expecting you to show up.
Right, the social pressure kicks in. So what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? Especially if you are that solo learner who is constantly downloading new information, buying new courses, but feeling entirely stuck.
Well, this raises a somewhat uncomfortable but important question for you.
Uh-oh.
How much time are you currently spending in learning mode as a disguised form of procrastination?
Oh, wow. Learning as procrastination, that hits really hard because it doesn't feel like procrastination when you're highlighting a textbook or taking notes.
It is the most comfortable form of procrastination on earth because it feels productive. But the ultimate goal of any true growth program isn't just checking off a completed module. It's a deep, fundamental transformation of your identity.
And transformation unequivocally requires participation.
Yes, it requires doing the thing.
All right, no more disguised procrastination then. Let's get to the participation part. The sources outline an 8-step action plan to help you stop consuming and start applying right now.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. We are going to walk through the architecture of this framework so you can build your plan today. And the very first step introduces a massive constraint.
Yes. Step 1 is write one goal. Just one, not 5.
Why just one?
We talked earlier about the prefrontal cortex and cognitive load. If you fracture your focus across 5 different self-improvement goals. You pretty much guarantee failure across all 5. You must isolate one singular destination.
Okay, that makes sense. And once you have that one goal, step 2 is defining that intrinsic why we discussed earlier. This goal matters to me because,
Right.
and step 3 is finding your blind spot, identifying that specific capability you need to develop.
And once you have those 3 foundational pieces, you put a ticking clock on it. Step 4 asks you to create 3 to 5 extremely small practical actions.
Small is key there.
Very small. Step 5 is setting a 30-day target. You ask yourself, what would meaningful progress look like exactly 30 days from now?
Then for step 6, you choose your measurement. How will you actually know you are moving forward?
Without driving yourself crazy tracking every detail.
Right. Meaningful metrics only. Step 7 is crucial. Schedule the action. Do not leave it as a vague intention floating in your head.
No. Put it on your actual calendar. Treat it like a meeting with your boss.
And finally, step 8. Review weekly. Look back at your calendar and ask, what worked? What didn't? What did I learn? What do I need to adjust?
And what's highly practical about this framework is that it applies to almost any domain of your life.
How so? Give us an example outside of, like, public speaking.
Let's look at AI and technology, which overwhelms a lot of people right now. If your goal is to modernize your skill set, you don't try to learn everything about AI. That will crash your operating system.
Right.
Instead, you choose one practical AI tool. You learn one specific use case. You apply it to one real task in your job, and your measurement is simply tracking the time it saved you over 30 days.
Wow, that makes it so much more approachable. The sources really emphasize that those first 30 to 90 days are purely about creating a foundation. It's about reducing stress and increasing clarity. You shouldn't expect to conquer the world in month 1.
And this is exactly where people make critical mistakes. They change direction every 3 days when they don't see immediate, life-altering results. Or they wait around to feel a surge of motivation before they take action.
Or they overcomplicate the plan until it's like a 40-page document that is just too heavy to carry.
Exactly. There is a vital quote from the text here that summarizes this perfectly. Consistency is more powerful than occasional intensity.
I love that.
You absolutely do not need a perfect plan. You just need a plan that is clear enough to allow you to take the next meaningful action.
I want to slow things down for a second. We've covered a lot of ground, and I want to step out of the theory and make this real for you. I'm going to ask you, the listener, the exact reflection questions from the source text.
These are powerful.
Yeah. So if you are driving, keep your eyes on the road, but if you can, just pause what you're doing for a moment, take a breath, and really try to answer these in your head. What is your one most important growth goal right now?
Just one.
Why does it truly matter to you? What is the anchor?
Find that intrinsic reason,
What specific capability do you need to develop to make it happen?
that blind spot.
And what are the first 3 extremely small actions you can take?
When you take the time to answer those questions, you are undergoing a real identity shift. You transition from someone who just says, I have a goal, to someone who says, I have a plan.
It's a huge step.
And soon, you transition to, I take action. You stop being someone who merely consumes information. You become someone who reviews, learns, improves, and continues.
It changes everything. To summarize what we've unpacked today, a goal gives you a destination. A plan gives you structure and direction. But your daily, consistent actions are what actually build the road beneath your feet.
And doing it alone, relying solely on your own willpower, is honestly the hardest path possible.
Oh, without a doubt.
The source material notes that for those seeking an environment of structured learning, mentorship, and real-world accountability, the Victory with Ash community provides exactly that ecosystem.
Right.
It is designed to help members move from learning toward practical application. And for anyone interested in accessing that environment, there is a referral link provided in the source materials to join.
It's all about finding that community that won't let you quit on yourself and leveraging an environment that raises your baseline standards.
Absolutely. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final, unscripted thought to ponder on your own.
Okay, let's hear it.
We have spent this entire deep dive focusing on how to perfectly architect and execute a plan for your goal. But if a goal without a plan is just a wish, What happens when you perfectly execute a plan for a goal that you never truly wanted in the first place?
Oh, wow.
Have you audited your YA recently?
Right.
Just to ensure that the goal you are chasing with all this newfound planning is actually yours, and not simply one that society or your parents or your workplace handed to you.
Oh, that is heavy, but so necessary. A perfectly executed plan for the wrong destination is still a tragedy. Make sure you are in the right taxi before you give the driver the address.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Our challenge to you: take your first action step, no matter how small, even if it just takes 2 minutes within the next 24 hours. Don't let the motivation fade this time. Write the code. We'll see you on the next one.